Captain Marcus Chen had seen many strange things during his 15 years piloting freight runs through the Outer Rim territories, but nothing quite like this. His cargo ship Defiant Hope drifted in the shadow of Kepler Station, waiting for clearance to dock, when the distress signal came through on an encrypted channel he'd never heard before. The voice was unmistakably female, but with an odd musical quality that made his skin tingle. "Human vessel, please respond. We are in desperate need of assistance. Our situation is unique." Marcus glanced at his navigation officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, who shrugged. "Signals coming from Sector 7, sir. That's uncharted space. Human vessel, please," the voice came again, more urgent now. "We know your kind values honor. We would not ask if our need was not genuine." Against his better judgment, Marcus opened a channel. "This is Captain Chen of the merchant vessel Defiant Hope. What's your situation?" A pause then. "Captain Chen, I am Zara of the Valanian people. We have heard stories of human resourcefulness. Our species faces extinction, and traditional solutions have failed us. We require outside assistance." Marcus had heard whispers about the Valanians in spaceport bars, a mysterious species that kept to themselves, somewhere beyond the known trade routes. "Beautiful," some said. "Dangerous," said others. No one seemed to know much for certain. "What kind of assistance are you talking about?" Marcus asked. "We cannot discuss this over open channels. Please, if you have any compassion, meet us at coordinates I'm transmitting now. We offer substantial payment in rare elements." Sarah's eyebrows shot up as the coordinates came through. "Sir, that's 3 days into uncharted space. We'd be way off the shipping lanes." Marcus studied the star charts. The coordinates pointed to a system that barely registered on their sensors. "Why us? Why not contact the Galactic Council or one of the major powers?" "Because," Zara's voice carried a note of desperation, "they would not understand. They would fear us. But humans are different. You adapt. You survive against impossible odds. You help when others will not." Something in her tone tugged at Marcus's conscience. He'd built his reputation on being reliable, steady, the kind of captain who delivered cargo on time and asked no questions. But he'd also never been able to ignore someone in genuine distress. "What's your cargo manifest?" Sarah asked quietly. "We've got medical supplies bound for Titan Colony. They're expecting them." Marcus weighed the options. The Titan run was routine, profitable, and safe. Whatever lay at those coordinates was none of those things. But the desperation in Zara's voice was real, and the promised payment could set his crew up for months. "Zara, I need to know what I'm getting my crew into. I swear to you, Captain, we mean no harm to you or your people. We are a dying species and time grows short. What we face cannot be solved by our science or our weapons. It requires a different perspective." Marcus made his decision. "Sarah, plot a course for those coordinates. Send a message to Titan Colony about the delay." "Sir, are you sure about this?" He wasn't, not remotely. But something about this felt important in a way he couldn't explain. "Prep the ship for deep space, and keep our weapon systems ready, just in case." The 3-day journey passed without incident, though Marcus found himself growing increasingly curious about the Valanians. His research turned up frustratingly little. They'd made first contact with the Galactic Council about 50 years ago, established a small embassy, and then largely disappeared back into their home territory. Reports described them as humanoid but distinctly non-human, with an unusual social structure that few outsiders understood. When they finally reached the coordinates, Marcus was surprised to find not a planet, but a massive space station hidden in the shadow of a dead moon. The structure was unlike anything he'd seen before, all flowing curves and organic shapes as if it had been grown rather than built. "Defiant Hope. This is Valanian Station Sanctuary. Permission to come aboard?" "Granted. Docking Bay 7 is prepared for your vessel." As they approached the docking bay, Marcus got his first good look at Valanian architecture. Everything seemed designed around graceful flowing lines. Even the docking clamps extended like welcoming arms rather than the harsh mechanical grabs he was used to. The atmosphere in the docking bay registered as breathable, and Marcus decided to meet their hosts in person. He selected a small security detail, keeping it minimal to show good faith but enough to handle trouble if it arose. The woman who greeted them was breathtaking. Zara stood nearly 6 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Her features were elegantly elongated, almost elven, and her eyes held depths that seemed to shift between blue and violet. She wore flowing robes that somehow managed to be both modest and alluring. "Captain Chen, thank you for coming. I am Zara, as you know. This is my sister, Lyra." Lyra was equally stunning but carried herself differently, with attention that suggested barely controlled anxiety. Both women moved with fluid grace that made Marcus think of dancers or predators. "You said your people needed help," Marcus said, trying to focus on business despite the magnetic presence of his hosts. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Zara exchanged a glance with Lyra before answering. "Our species is dying, Captain. Not from disease or war, but from a failure of our biology. We need genetic material to survive, but our traditional sources have been exhausted." "Genetic material?" Marcus felt a chill of suspicion. "What kind of genetic material?" "From compatible humanoid species," Lyra said quietly. "The process is complex." Marcus's security chief, Sergeant Rodriguez, stepped closer. "Captain, maybe we should discuss this privately." But Zara held up a hand. "Please, there is no deception here. We are asking for help because we have no other choice. Our species faces extinction within a generation unless we can find a solution." "And you think humans can help with that?" Marcus asked. "We hope so," Zara said. "But first you must understand what we truly are. And that knowledge, it may change how you see us entirely." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The way both women watched him suggested that whatever they were about to reveal would be significant. He'd come here expecting a simple rescue operation or medical emergency. Instead, he was beginning to realize he'd stumbled into something far more complex. "All right," he said finally. "Show me." Zara led Marcus and his security team deeper into the station, through corridors that seemed to pulse with soft, living light. The walls curved organically, and Marcus noticed that the air carried a faint, sweet scent that was somehow both calming and intoxicating. "Your station is remarkable," Marcus said, trying to fill the tense silence. "The architecture is unlike anything I've seen." "Thank you," Zara replied. "We do not build as other species do. Our structures grow, shaped by our needs and our nature." They passed other Valanians in the corridors, and Marcus noticed they were all female. Every single one. Some nodded respectfully to Zara and Lyra, while others watched the humans with curious, almost hungry expressions that made him uncomfortable. "Zara," he said quietly, "where are your males?" The two sisters stopped walking and exchanged another meaningful glance. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. "That," Zara said softly, "is part of what we must explain to you." They entered a vast chamber with a domed ceiling that showed a projection of the stars outside. Comfortable seating was arranged in a circle, and Zara gestured for the humans to sit. The furniture seemed to adjust itself to their bodies, providing perfect support. "Captain Chen," Zara began, settling gracefully across from him. "What do you know about species evolution and survival strategies?" "Basic biology," Marcus replied cautiously. "Adaptation, natural selection, survival of the fittest." Indeed. Every species develops strategies to ensure its continuation. Some rely on numbers, producing many offspring. Others focus on individual strength or intelligence. And some, she paused, develop more specialized approaches. Lyra stood and began pacing, her agitation clear. "Tell him, Zara, stop dancing around it." Zara sighed. "Very well. Captain, our species evolved a unique survival strategy. We are what you might call parasitic reproducers." Marcus felt his blood go cold. "Parasitic? Not in the way you might think," Zara said quickly. "We do not harm our hosts. Indeed, they benefit greatly from the relationship. But we require genetic material from compatible humanoid males to reproduce." "And how do you obtain this genetic material?" Sergeant Rodriguez asked, his hand moving unconsciously toward his sidearm. "Through intimate contact," Lyra said bluntly. "We must mate with males of compatible species. The process transfers more than just genetic information. It transfers essence, life force, certain neurological patterns." Marcus stood up. "And what happens to the male?" Zara's luminous eyes grew sad. "They become changed, enhanced in many ways. Stronger, more intelligent, longer lived. But they also become bound to us, dependent on our presence for their continued existence." "You're talking about slavery," Rodriguez said flatly. "No," Lyra protested. "They are cherished, protected, cared for. They want for nothing. Many find the experience transcendent." Marcus felt sick. "How many males do you have here?" "Currently?" Zara's voice was barely a whisper. None. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Marcus tried to process what he was hearing. None? Our last bonded males died 3 years ago, Zara explained. They had long lives, centuries, but eventually even our enhancement cannot prevent aging. Without new genetic material, without new bonded partners, our species cannot produce offspring. Why haven't you bonded with males from other species? Marcus asked. We have tried, Lyra said desperately. Altarians, Zentari, even some of the synthetic humanoids. But the compatibility is poor. The bonding either fails entirely or produces offspring that are weak, short-lived. We need species that are genetically flexible, adaptable, robust. Species like humans, Marcus said, understanding dawning. Exactly, Zara confirmed. Humans are remarkable. Your genetic code is unusually adaptive. Your neuroplasticity is extraordinary. Your psychological resilience is legendary throughout the galaxy. Marcus looked around the chamber, noting again the complete absence of males. How many of you are there? On this station? Nearly 3,000, across all our worlds and colonies. Perhaps 50,000? Zara's voice grew heavy. All female. All slowly dying as our biological clocks wind down. And you want human males to, sacrifice themselves for your species? Lyra stepped forward, her eyes blazing. It is not sacrifice. The bonding brings pleasure beyond imagining. The enhanced males live for centuries, gain abilities they never dreamed of. They become more than they ever were alone. But they lose their freedom, Rodriguez observed. Do they? Zara asked quietly. Or do they gain something more valuable? Purpose, meaning, connection to something greater than themselves? Marcus struggled with the implications. On one hand, what the Valanians described sounded like sophisticated slavery with extra steps. On the other hand, they seemed genuinely convinced that the arrangement was beneficial to both parties. Why come to me? He asked. Why not approach the human government or military? Because, Zara said, we know how other species view us. They fear us, see us as predators or parasites. They would never allow volunteer bonding. They would either try to destroy us or quarantine us. But humans are different, Lyra added. You value individual choice. You have concepts of honor and sacrifice that other species lack. You might understand. Marcus sat back down, his mind racing. You're asking me to help you find human volunteers. We are asking you to consider the full picture, Zara said carefully. Yes, we need volunteers, but we also offer them something unprecedented. A chance to become something greater, to be part of preserving an entire species, to experience pleasures and abilities beyond normal human existence. And if they say no, then they say no, Zara replied firmly. We do not take anyone against their will. The bonding process requires willing participation from both parties, or it fails. Rodriguez leaned forward. What exactly does the bonding process involve? Lyra's cheeks flushed slightly. It begins with physical intimacy, but that is only the start. Over time, the male's neural pathways become synchronized with his bonded female. His genetic expression alters. His lifespan extends dramatically. His physical capabilities enhance. And the female? Marcus asked. Gains the ability to reproduce, Zara said simply. The bonded pair becomes a reproductive unit. The male's genetic material allows us to create offspring that carry traits from both species. Marcus absorbed this information. Show me, he said finally. Show you what? Show me evidence of what you're claiming. Records of bonded males. Proof that they benefited from the arrangement. If you want my help, I need to see that you're telling the truth. Zara and Lyra exchanged another glance. Then Zara nodded. Very well. But understand, Captain, that once you see the full truth of what we are, there will be no going back. You will have knowledge that will change how you view not just us, but the nature of evolution itself. She stood and gestured toward another passage. Follow me. I will show you the archive of the bonded. As they walked, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to cross a line that would change everything. The Valanians' offer was seductive in its way, but it also felt dangerous. The question was whether the benefits they promised were real, or just another form of predation dressed up in appealing language. The archive chamber was vast and dimly lit, with walls lined with crystalline storage matrices that pulsed with soft, shifting colors. As they entered, the crystals began to glow brighter, responding to their presence. Zara moved to a central console that seemed to grow from the floor itself. This contains the complete records of every bonded male in our history, she said. her fingers dancing across controls that appeared and disappeared as needed. Nearly 10,000 individuals across 1,500 years. The chamber filled with holographic images as the archive activated. Marcus saw faces, documents, video recordings, and what appeared to be biological scans. The sheer volume of information was overwhelming. Here, Zara said, focusing on one particular record. This is Corvash, an Altarian who bonded with my great-grandmother. He lived for 312 years. The hologram showed a tall, blue-skinned humanoid with pronounced cranial ridges. As the record played, Marcus watched the being transform. The early images showed him as typical of his species, but later recordings revealed dramatic changes. His muscles had become more defined, his eyes brighter, and there was an aura of confidence and vitality that grew stronger over time. The bonding enhanced his natural Altarian strength tenfold, Zara explained. He could lift objects weighing several tons with ease. His reflexes became superhuman. Watch this. The hologram showed Corvash sparring with multiple opponents simultaneously, moving so fast he was barely visible. His movements flowed like water, anticipating attacks before they came. Impressive, Rodriguez admitted grudgingly. But what was the cost? Lyra touched another control and the display shifted to show brain scans. The bonding created new neural pathways. Enhanced memory, improved pattern recognition, expanded consciousness. He could perceive electromagnetic spectrums invisible to normal Altarians. Marcus studied the brain scans with growing amazement. The enhanced individual's neural activity was incredibly complex, with connections and activity patterns that looked almost like a computer network. The trade-off, Zara said quietly, was dependence. After bonding, Corvash could not survive for extended periods away from my great-grandmother. The neural synchronization required regular contact to maintain stability. How regular? Marcus asked. Physical contact at least once every few days. Separation for more than a week could cause neurological damage. The hologram shifted to show Corvash and his bonded partner together. There was an obvious connection between them, a synchronicity in their movements that went beyond the merely physical. They seemed to communicate without words, responding to each other's needs instinctively. Was he happy? Rodriguez asked. Lyra smiled sadly. See for yourself. The display showed Corvash in his later years, still vital despite his advanced age. In recorded interviews, he spoke of his transformation with something approaching religious awe. He described experiences and sensations that had no equivalent in normal existence, spoke of understanding the universe in ways his original species could never achieve. I have lived 100 lives in this single existence, he said in one recording. I have seen colors that have no names, felt emotions deeper than oceans. My bonded partner has not enslaved me. She has liberated me from the prison of ordinary consciousness. Marcus felt conflicted. The evidence seemed genuine, but something still troubled him. Show me someone who wasn't happy with the arrangement. Zara hesitated. They are rare. But yes, there have been some. She pulled up another record, this one tinged with sadness. The new hologram showed a reptilian humanoid called Thesak. Unlike Corvash, his transformation seemed incomplete, unstable. The enhanced abilities were there, but so was obvious distress. Thesak's species was poorly compatible with our bonding process, Zara explained. The neural integration was incomplete. He gained the physical enhancements but suffered psychological fragmentation. In the recordings, Thesak appeared increasingly agitated over time. He spoke of feeling like his thoughts weren't entirely his own, of losing pieces of his original identity. Despite his enhanced abilities, there was a haunted quality to his eyes. What happened to him? Marcus asked. He requested separation from his bonded partner, Lyra said softly. We granted it, of course, but without the neural support, he began to deteriorate rapidly. He died within 6 months. The brutally honest admission impressed Marcus despite his concerns. You could have hidden that. We could have, Zara agreed. But deception would serve no one. You need to understand both the benefits and the risks. Marcus studied more records, seeing patterns emerge. Species with high neuroplasticity, like Altarians and Zentari, seemed to adapt well to bonding. Those with rigid neural structures often struggled. Humans, according to the Valanian analysis, fell into the high compatibility category. These brain scans, Marcus said, pointing to a particularly detailed display. The bonded individuals show activity patterns I've never seen before. The bonding creates a meta-consciousness, Zara explained. The individual retains their personality and memories, but gains access to enhanced cognitive abilities. Pattern recognition improves by orders of magnitude. Problem-solving capabilities expand dramatically. They become geniuses, Rodriguez observed. More than that, Lyra said. They become capable of perceiving reality in ways that normal consciousness cannot achieve. Many of our greatest scientific advances came from insights provided by bonded males. Marcus paused at a display showing what appeared to be mathematical proofs. What is this? Unified field equations, Zara said proudly. Solved by a bonded human named David Chen 2 centuries ago. Chen? Marcus looked up sharply. That's my surname. Zara smiled. We know. David was your ancestor, Captain. His bloodline shows exceptional compatibility with our bonding process. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stared at the holographic display showing a man who looked remarkably like him, but transformed. The enhanced David Chen radiated confidence and intelligence, his eyes holding depths that suggested vast inner landscapes. You knew, Marcus said slowly. You knew who I was when you called for help. We did our research, yes, Zara admitted. But we called for help because we need it. The fact that you have genetic predisposition for successful bonding is fortunate. For you. For everyone, Lyra insisted. Your ancestor's bonding produced 12 offspring over his extended lifetime. Those hybrid children inherited advantages from both species. Enhanced intelligence, disease resistance, extended lifespan. Marcus felt manipulated but also curious despite himself. What happened to his children? They established one of our most successful colonies, Zara explained. The hybrid vigor allowed them to adapt to worlds that pure Valanians could never inhabit. Several became renowned scientists and explorers. The archive showed images of David's descendants, and Marcus had to admit they looked healthy and vital. There was something in their bearing that suggested confidence and capability beyond normal parameters. This is a lot to process, Marcus said finally. We understand, Zara replied. We are not asking for an immediate decision. We simply want you to consider the possibility. Your species is remarkable, Captain. You adapt, you overcome, you survive against impossible odds. Those same qualities that make you excellent survivors would make you exceptional bonded partners. Rodriguez moved closer to Marcus. Sir, I think we need to discuss this privately. Of course, Zara said graciously. We have prepared quarters for you. Take whatever time you need to consider what you have learned. As they left the archive, Marcus's mind raced with questions and concerns. The evidence suggested that bonding could indeed provide remarkable benefits, but the cost in freedom and independence was significant. And the fact that the Valanians had specifically sought him out because of his ancestry felt like manipulation, regardless of their stated intentions. But there was also the undeniable fact that an entire species faced extinction. Whatever his concerns about their methods, the Valanians seemed genuine in their desperation. And if their claims about the benefits of bonding were true, perhaps there was a way to help them while also advancing human capabilities. The question was whether he could trust them enough to risk finding volunteers, or if this was all an elaborate trap designed to snare unwary humans for purposes darker than they admitted. The guest quarters were luxurious beyond anything Marcus had experienced on a space station. The walls seemed to breathe, adjusting temperature and humidity automatically while soft surfaces shaped themselves to provide perfect comfort. Despite the alien beauty of his surroundings, Marcus found himself unable to rest. Something's bothering you beyond the obvious, Rodriguez said as they gathered in Marcus's room to discuss the situation privately. The other security team members, Corporals Jackson and Torres, nodded in agreement. It's too perfect, Marcus replied, pacing across the living area. Every answer they give raises 10 more questions. Why haven't they approached humans before? Why wait until they're down to their last generation? Maybe they tried and got refused, Jackson suggested. A lot of people wouldn't react well to what they're proposing. Or maybe, Torres added darkly, they're not telling us everything. Sarah, who had been quiet since they left the archive, finally spoke up. The neural scans troubled me. I ran some quick comparisons against standard humanoid patterns. The bonded individuals show signs of what we'd classify as addiction in humans. Marcus stopped pacing. Addiction? The brain chemistry changes they showed us? They're consistent with dependency patterns. The bonded males weren't just enhanced, they were biochemically dependent on their partners. That's not symbiosis. That's parasitism with benefits. Before anyone could respond, the room's communication system activated. Zara's voice filled the space, sounding distressed. Captain Chen, I apologize for the interruption, but we have a situation. One of our people is experiencing what you might call a crisis. She has requested to speak with you specifically. Marcus exchanged glances with his team. What kind of crisis? It would be better if you saw for yourself. Will you come? Against his better judgment, Marcus agreed. With Rodriguez at his side, he followed Zara through corridors that seemed darker than before. The organic lighting dimmed to a somber glow. They entered a medical facility where a young Valanian female lay on a biobed surrounded by monitoring equipment. She was convulsing slightly, her luminous skin flickering between pale and bright. Her eyes, when they focused on Marcus, held a desperation that was painful to witness. This is Kira, Zara said softly. She is dying. From what? Marcus asked, moving closer despite Rodriguez's warning gesture. From lack of bonding, Lyra explained, appearing beside them.
Our reproductive cycle is not optional, Captain.
If we do not bond and reproduce within a certain time frame, our bodies begin to shut down. Kira's hand shot out and grasped Marcus's wrist with surprising strength. Please, she whispered, her voice carrying musical harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. I can feel myself fading. The hunger grows stronger every day. Hunger? Marcus asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. For connection, Kira said, her grip tightening. For the neural patterns we need to complete ourselves. Without bonding, we are incomplete. Literally dying of loneliness. Marcus felt a strange sensation where her skin touched his. A tingling warmth that seemed to spread up his arm. He pulled away, but not before noticing that his heart rate had increased and his thoughts felt somehow clearer. What did you just do? Rodriguez demanded, hand moving to his weapon. Nothing harmful, Zara said quickly, but contact with compatible males can provide temporary relief for our people. A few minutes of connection can ease the hunger for days. Marcus stared at his wrist where Kira had touched him. The skin seemed to glow faintly, and he could swear he felt echoes of emotions that weren't his own. You're all like this? All suffering from this hunger? In varying degrees, Lyra admitted. The younger females suffer most. Those of us who have bonded before can endure longer, but even we feel the emptiness growing. How long do you have? Marcus asked. Kira, perhaps weeks, Zara said sadly. Others months or years. But eventually, without new bonded partners, we will all succumb. Marcus looked around the medical facility and realized it was larger than he'd initially thought. Through transparent partitions, he could see dozens of other Valanians in various stages of the same condition. Some were conscious but listless. Others seemed catatonic, and a few were clearly in the final stages of whatever was consuming them. Why didn't you tell me this before? Marcus asked. Because, Zara replied, we knew how it would sound. We knew you would see us as predators rather than victims of our own biology. Aren't you both? Rodriguez asked bluntly. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Finally, Lyra answered. Perhaps. But does intent matter when the alternative is extinction? Marcus found himself thinking about the enhanced individuals he'd seen in the archives. Were they willing partners in a symbiotic relationship? Or were they addicts who didn't understand their own condition? The truth, he suspected, was probably somewhere in between. There's something else, Kira said weakly. Something they haven't told you about the children. Zara and Lyra immediately tensed. Kira, no, Zara warned. But Kira pressed on, her voice gaining strength as if defying her condition through sheer will. The hybrid offspring don't just inherit advantages from both species. They inherit the hunger too. Marcus felt his blood go cold. What do you mean? The children of bonded pairs can survive without bonding longer than pure Valanians, but they still need it eventually. The genetic modifications that allow crossbreeding also ensure the continuation of our reproductive requirements. You're talking about creating a hybrid species that shares your dependency, Marcus realized. We're talking about evolution, Lyra said defensively. Adaptation. Survival. You're talking about spreading your condition to our species, Rodriguez countered. Is it a condition? Zara asked quietly. Or is it the next step in conscious evolution? The bonded males achieve capabilities that individual consciousness cannot reach. Their children inherit those advantages. Over time, the hybrid offspring becomes something greater than either parent species. Marcus struggled to process the implications. If what they were saying was true, agreeing to help them wouldn't just be providing assistance to a dying species. It would be fundamentally altering humanity itself, creating a new branch of human evolution that was dependent on the Valanian bonding process. The males who volunteer, he said slowly, they can never go back to normal human society, can they? They can visit, Lyra said, with their bonded partners, but no, they cannot resume their previous lives as individuals. And their children will be welcomed in either society, but will eventually need to find bonded partners of their own. Marcus realized he was seeing the Valanian strategy in its full scope now. It wasn't just about saving their species, it was about creating a new hybrid species that would ensure their survival across multiple generations. The bonding process wasn't just reproduction. It was a form of gentle conquest, spreading their genetic and neurological patterns through willing hosts. But was that necessarily a bad thing? The enhanced individuals he'd seen were clearly superior to their baseline counterparts in many ways. And if the choice was voluntary, I need to see something, Marcus said suddenly. I want to talk to someone who's been bonded recently. Not archives or records. Someone who can tell me what the experience is actually like from the inside. Zara and Lyra exchanged yet another of their meaningful glances. That, Zara said carefully, may be more difficult than you might expect. Why? Because, Lyra replied, we don't currently have any recently bonded males. Our last successful bonding was over a year ago, and that individual left us. Marcus felt pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to fall into place. Left you? I thought you said bonded males couldn't survive away from their partners. Usually they cannot, Zara admitted, but this case was unusual. The revelation that a bonded male had somehow left the Valanians changed everything. Marcus pressed for details, but Zara seemed reluctant to elaborate. It was Kira, still weak but apparently determined to tell the truth, who provided the crucial information. His name was Alex Turner, she whispered from her medical bed. Human like you. He volunteered after his ship was damaged and we helped repair it. Zara shot Kira a warning look, but the dying Valanian continued. The bonding with my sister Vera was successful. Too successful. Alex adapted to the neural enhancement faster than anyone we'd seen before. What do you mean by too successful? Marcus asked. Human neural plasticity, Lyra explained reluctantly, proved more adaptable than we anticipated. Instead of becoming dependent on the bonding connection, Alex began to evolve beyond it. Rodriguez leaned forward. He broke free? Not exactly broke free, Kira said. He learned to maintain the enhancement without constant connection to his bonded partner. His brain rewired itself to sustain the elevated consciousness independently. Marcus felt a surge of hope and pride. If a human had managed to gain the benefits of bonding without the dependency, it changed the entire equation. Where is he now? The Valanians exchanged uncomfortable glances. We don't know, Zara admitted. He left 6 months ago, taking his enhanced knowledge and abilities with him. And his bonded partner? Vera survived the separation better than expected, Lyra said quietly. But she has been changed by the experience. The neural connection worked both ways. When Alex achieved independence, some of his adaptations transferred back to her. Can I talk to her? She refuses to see anyone, Zara said. The experience of bonding with Alex and then losing him was traumatic. She blames herself for not being able to maintain the connection. Marcus realized there was more to this story. Show me where Alex was held. He wasn't held anywhere, Lyra protested. He was free to move throughout the station, but supervised, monitored, controlled. Marcus's tone made it clear this wasn't a question. Reluctantly, Zara led them to another section of the station. The quarters were luxurious but clearly designed to contain rather than simply house someone. Hidden barriers, subtle psychological pressures built into the architecture, and monitoring systems disguised as decorative elements. You kept him prisoner, Rodriguez observed. We protected him, Zara countered. The bonding process can be disorienting. New bonded males often try to leave before the neural integration is complete. If they succeed, they die. But Alex didn't die. No, Kira said weakly, having insisted on accompanying them despite her condition. Alex was different. His mind adapted faster than his body. He maintained the enhancement while his dependency faded. Marcus studied the quarters and felt his respect for the unknown Alex Turner growing. The man had essentially engineered his own escape from what amounted to comfortable slavery, and had done it using the very abilities his captors had given him. "What did he say when he left?" Marcus asked. "That he would return with help," Lyra said. "But that was 6 months ago." "Maybe he's keeping his word," Rodriguez suggested. "Maybe he sent the distress call that brought us here." The Valanians looked startled at the suggestion. "We sent that call ourselves," Zara protested. "Did you? Or did someone else use your communication system?" Before anyone could answer, the station's communication system activated with an incoming transmission. The voice that emerged was unmistakably human, male, and carried an authority that made everyone in the room freeze. "Sanctuary Station, this is Alex Turner aboard the vessel Prometheus. I'm requesting permission to dock." The silence stretched for long moments before Zara found her voice. "Alex, you're alive?" "Very much so. And I've brought friends. Captain Chen, I assume you're there since I've been tracking the Defiant Hope since you entered Valanian space." Marcus stepped forward. "Turner, this is Captain Chen. What's your situation?" "Complicated. I'll explain when I dock, but the short version is that I've spent the last 6 months learning some very interesting things about Valanian biology and history, things that change the entire picture." "What kind of things?" Zara asked, her voice tight with worry. "The kind that explain why your species is really dying and why traditional bonding isn't working anymore." "Permission to dock?" Against her obvious reluctance, Zara granted permission. As they made their way to the docking bay, Marcus noticed the Valanians seemed nervous in a way they hadn't before. Whatever Alex Turner had discovered, it clearly threatened their carefully constructed narrative. The ship that docked was sleek and obviously advanced, incorporating design elements that looked both human and alien. When the airlock opened, the man who emerged was clearly human but somehow more. Taller than average, moving with fluid grace, and with eyes that held depths of intelligence that were almost unsettling. Behind him came a mixed group of humans and what appeared to be other species, all carrying themselves with the same enhanced bearing. "Alex," Zara said, and Marcus could hear complex emotions in her voice. "Love, anger, fear, hope, Zara, Lyra." He nodded to each sister. "You look well, considering you're dying of a disease that doesn't exist." "What are you talking about?" Lyra demanded. "The neural hunger, the reproductive necessity, the genetic dependency," Alex said, his voice carrying a new authority. "It's not a natural evolutionary trait. It's an artificial condition imposed by your own governing caste centuries ago." The words hit like a bomb. Marcus watched the Valanians' faces cycle through shock, denial, and dawning horror. "That's impossible," Zara whispered. "Is it?" Alex gestured to his companions. "These are representatives from 12 different species that your people have bonded with over the centuries. We've spent months comparing notes and conducting research." One of the aliens stepped forward, a tall, crystalline being that Marcus didn't recognize. "The bonding process artificially induces dependency in both species," it said in a voice like chiming bells. "Our people discovered this centuries ago and developed countermeasures." "You're lying," Lyra said desperately. The archives show what you've been told they show," Alex interrupted. "But they've been edited, censored, controlled by the same group that created the dependency in the first place." Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath his feet again. "What group?" Alex's expression grew grim. "The Valanian Reproduction Council, a shadow government that's maintained power for over 1,000 years by controlling their species' reproductive process." "They don't exist," Zara protested. "Don't they?" Alex pulled out a data pad and activated a holographic display.
Here are their meeting records for the last 50 years.
Here are the genetic modification protocols they've used to maintain the bonding dependency. And here, his voice grew cold, are the elimination orders for any Valanian who gets too close to the truth. The hologram showed documents that made Marcus's blood run cold. Orders for assassinations, genetic manipulation protocols, and evidence of systematic mind control spanning generations. The females on this station aren't dying because they lack bonded mates. Alex continued. They're dying because they've been poisoned with inhibitors designed to maintain artificial dependency on the bonding process. Marcus turned to look at the Valanians, seeing them with new eyes. Were Zara and Lyra part of the conspiracy, or were they victims of it like everyone else? The answer came in Zara's horrified expression as she stared at the documents. "No," she whispered. "This can't be real." But Lyra's reaction was different. Instead of shock, Marcus saw calculation, then resignation. How long have you known? He asked her quietly. Lyra's shoulders sagged in defeat. Since I was initiated into the council at age 50, we convinced ourselves it was necessary for species survival. The betrayal hit Zara like a physical blow. You knew? You've known all along that we're being murdered to maintain their power? It's not murder, Lyra said weakly. It's necessary control. Without the bonding dependency, our people would scatter across the galaxy. We'd lose our identity, our purpose. You'd lose your slaves, Alex said coldly. Marcus felt rage building in his chest. How many species have you done this to? How many men have you turned into addicts while telling them they were being enhanced? The enhancements are real, Lyra insisted. The bonded males do gain abilities. Abilities powered by biochemical dependency, Alex countered. I broke free by learning to replicate the enhancement compounds artificially. But that knowledge has been suppressed to maintain the illusion that bonding is necessary. Marcus looked around at the assembled group and realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. A systematic exposure of what might be the galaxy's most successful long-term deception. The revelation of the Reproduction Council's conspiracy transformed the station from a refuge for a dying species into a powder keg of revolution. As word spread through the corridors, Marcus witnessed something extraordinary. An entire civilization discovering that their fundamental beliefs were built on lies. We need to move quickly, Alex told the assembled group in what had become an impromptu command center. The council has been monitoring communications. They know we're here. Zara, still reeling from the discovery of her sister's betrayal, had become an unlikely ally. How many Valanians know the truth? Before today? Perhaps a few hundred across all our worlds, Alex replied. The council was very thorough in their information control. Marcus studied the data Alex had provided, trying to understand the scope of the deception. These genetic modification protocols, they're the real reason your people are dying? Exactly. The council introduces inhibitor compounds into the food supply that create artificial dependency symptoms. Without regular bonding to neutralize the inhibitors, the symptoms become fatal. Alex's voice carried controlled fury. It's the most sophisticated population control system ever devised. And the bonded males are fed enhancement compounds that do provide real abilities, but also create neurological dependency. The council convinced themselves that happy slaves were still slaves, so they made sure the experience was pleasurable enough that the victims rarely complained. Rodriguez, who had been monitoring the station's security systems, looked up grimly. We've got incoming ships, multiple vessels, military configuration. Through the viewport, Marcus could see sleek warships approaching the station. Their design was unmistakably Valanian, but they moved with predatory purpose. Council Enforcement Fleet, Lyra said quietly. She had been silent since her admission of complicity, but now seemed to be finding some measure of courage. They'll try to contain the situation by destroying everyone who knows the truth, Alex said. Standard procedure. We've seen it before. Zara moved to a communication panel. I'm sending a station-wide broadcast. Everyone deserves to know. Before she could activate it, Lyra grabbed her hand. If you do that, they'll attack immediately. Thousands will die. Thousands are dying anyway, Zara shot back. At least this way they'll know why. Marcus made a decision. Can this station defend itself? The defensive systems were disabled years ago, Alex replied. Council orders. They prefer to maintain control through dependency rather than force, but they're prepared for force when necessary. What about your ship? Alex smiled grimly. The Prometheus is armed, but it's just one vessel against a fleet. Marcus activated his comm unit. Sarah, are you monitoring this? Yes, sir. I've got the Defiant Hope powered up and ready. But we're not a warship. No, but we're fast. Can you relay a distress signal to the nearest human military installation? Already done, sir. Help is coming, but it's at least 12 hours out. Marcus looked around the room at the faces of people from a dozen different species, all united by their shared experience of Valanian deception. 12 hours is a long time to hold out. We don't have to hold out, Alex said suddenly. We have something better than weapons. What? The truth. And the means to spread it. Alex moved to Zara's abandoned communication station and began working with practiced efficiency. Every council ship, every Valanian world, every bonded male across the galaxy, they're all connected through the same communication network the council uses for coordination. Marcus began to understand. You're going to broadcast the evidence to everyone at once, simultaneously, before they can cut the signals or spin the information. Alex's fingers flew across the controls, but I need time to break their encryption. The station shuddered as the first warning shots from the Council fleet struck the outer hull. Emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in a red glow that made the situation feel even more desperate. How long do you need? Marcus asked. 20 minutes. Marcus activated his comm again. Sarah, I need you to buy us 20 minutes. Sir, what exactly am I supposed to do against a military fleet? Be creative, and get ready to run when I give the word. Marcus turned to the assembled representatives. Anyone here have ships that can fight? The crystalline being from earlier stepped forward. Our vessel is equipped with defensive systems. We can provide some assistance. 3 other aliens nodded agreement, and Marcus felt a surge of hope. It wasn't much, but it might be enough. Zara, I need you to coordinate with the station's population. Anyone with technical skills. Put them to work on repairing the defensive systems. Everyone else prepare for possible evacuation. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Lyra approached Marcus. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I want to help. Marcus studied her face, seeing genuine remorse alongside determination. Why? Because I've spent 3 centuries living a lie and helping perpetuate it. Because my people are dying for the power fantasies of a few hundred council members. Because, her voice broke slightly, I've watched my own sister suffer from a condition I knew was artificially induced. Before Marcus could respond, another impact shook the station, this one strong enough to throw people off their feet. They're not playing games anymore, Rodriguez observed, checking his weapon systems. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the council ships had formed an attack formation. Energy weapons began charging, their glow visible even across the vacuum of space. Then something unexpected happened. The Defiant Hope appeared, moving at high speed directly toward the council fleet. Behind it came the alien ships Alex had brought, a motley collection of vessels that nonetheless moved with coordinated purpose. Sarah, what are you doing? Marcus demanded over the comm. Being creative, sir. We're not trying to win a fight. We're trying to create a distraction. The small fleet of mixed vessels began a complex dance around the larger council ships, using superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the heavy weapons while delivering hit-and-run attacks. It was clear they couldn't maintain the tactic for long, but it was buying Alex the time he needed. 10 minutes, Alex called out, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked. Their encryption is more sophisticated than I expected. The station shook again, more violently this time. Through the communication system, Marcus could hear reports of hull breaches and system failures throughout the facility. Evacuation pods are ready, Zara reported. But we can't launch them while the council ships are in position. They'll be destroyed. Marcus felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Thousands of lives depended on the next few minutes, and he was running out of options. Then Lyra surprised everyone by moving to another communication panel. I still have council authorization codes, she said. I can contact the fleet commander directly. What good will that do? Rodriguez asked. Maybe none, but maybe I can give Alex the final minutes he needs. Before anyone could stop her, Lyra activated the communication system. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the authority of centuries of council membership. Council Fleet Prime, this is Director Lyra of the Reproductive Authority. You will cease fire immediately and withdraw to minimum safe distance. The response was immediate and hostile. Director Lyra, you are in violation of council directives. Surrender yourself for reconditioning or face the consequences. Reconditioning, Lyra said to the room quietly. That's their term for selective memory erasure. Into the communicator, she said. I invoke challenge right under the old codes. I formally accuse the Reproduction Council of genocide against the Valanian people. The silence that followed was profound. Marcus could see through the viewport that the council ships had actually stopped firing. Challenge. Right hasn't been invoked in 5 centuries, came the eventual response. Because no one knew it still existed, I'm transmitting the legal documentation now. Under the old codes, all hostile action must cease until the challenge is resolved. 5 minutes, Alex called out urgently. Lyra continued her desperate legal maneuvering, quoting ancient laws and precedents that most Valanians had forgotten existed. It was buying them time, but Marcus could see the strain on her face as she fought a verbal battle with people who had the power to destroy everything she was trying to protect. 2 minutes? Alex announced. That's when the Council Fleet Commander made his final decision. Challenge right is denied under emergency authority. All vessels resume firing. Destroy the station. The first full-power assault lit up space like a miniature star. But at the exact moment the weapons fired, Alex's fingers stabbed down on his final control. Got it, he shouted, broadcasting now to every receiver in the galaxy. As energy beams converged on the station, Marcus grabbed Zara's hand and prepared for what might be his final moments. But if they died here, at least they would die knowing that the truth was finally spreading across the stars. The energy beams that should have destroyed Sanctuary Station never reached their target. At the last moment, a massive human warship materialized from hyperspace, its shields absorbing the Council fleet's assault. The arrival of the UES Liberator changed everything in an instant. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Forces," came the crisp voice over all communication channels. "You will cease fire immediately and prepare to be boarded." Marcus felt his jaw drop. "Chen? Admiral Chen?" Through the chaos, Alex Turner grinned. "I told you I'd been busy for 6 months. Your admiral is your cousin, by the way, descendant of the same David Chen whose records the Valanians showed you. The human fleet that emerged from hyperspace was impressive not just for its size, but for its composition. Alongside Earth vessels were ships from a dozen other species, all flying in coordinated formation. "Captain," came Admiral Chen's voice over a direct channel, "this is quite a mess you've stumbled into. Admiral, the situation is more complex than our initial reports suggested, so I'm learning. Your Mr. Turner has been very persuasive in explaining the scope of Valanian operations throughout this sector. We've been preparing a coordinated response for months." Through the viewport, Marcus watched as the Council ships found themselves hopelessly outgunned and outnumbered. Several were attempting to flee, but the mixed-species fleet had them completely surrounded. "Broadcasting complete," Alex announced. "Every bonded male in the galaxy now has access to the enhancement formulas. Every Valanian settlement has received the evidence against the Council, and every species that's been affected has been provided with countermeasures." As if to underscore his point, reports began flooding in from across Valanian space. On world after world, bonded males were breaking free of their dependency while retaining their enhancements. Valanian populations were learning the truth about their artificial hunger. Council installations were being overwhelmed by their own people. "It's working," Zara said in amazement, monitoring the incoming communications. "The entire system is collapsing." But their celebration was interrupted by a personal communication request from one of the Council ships. The face that appeared on the screen was distinctly Valanian, but somehow wrong. Too perfect, too controlled, with eyes that held no warmth. "I am Prime Director Thessarian of the Reproduction Council," the figure said. "You have interfered with operations that have maintained galactic stability for a millennium." "You mean slavery and mass murder?" Marcus replied bluntly. "I mean controlled evolution. The bonding process has produced hybrid offspring with capabilities that exceed their parent species. We have guided the development of dozens of races toward enhanced potential." Alex stepped into view of the camera. "By making them addicts and slaves, by providing them with purpose and power beyond their natural limitations, the bonded males achieve heights of consciousness and ability they could never reach alone. Their children inherit advantages that benefit their entire species. Under your control," Admiral Chen's voice cut in from the fleet channel, "following your agenda, living according to your plans." "Living according to optimal evolutionary pathways," Thessarian corrected. "Without guidance, species stagnate. With proper management, they transcend." Marcus realized he was looking at the ultimate expression of the Valanian mentality. The belief that they knew better than everyone else what was best for the galaxy. "The process ends now," Admiral Chen declared. "Surrender your vessels and prepare to face justice for crimes against multiple species." Thessarian's expression didn't change. "You misunderstand. The process cannot end. Even now, enhanced individuals throughout the galaxy are experiencing withdrawal from the bonding compounds. Without our continued guidance, they will die." A chill ran through Marcus as he realized the threat wasn't empty. If the Valanians had been providing enhancement compounds to bonded males for centuries, Cutting off that supply suddenly could indeed be fatal, but Alex was already ahead of him. We anticipated that. Every enhanced individual is receiving synthesized compounds, along with the Liberation broadcast. The formulas are being distributed to medical facilities across known space. Thessarian's perfect composure cracked slightly. Impossible. Those compounds require sophisticated bioengineering to produce, which humans excel at, Admiral Chen noted with obvious satisfaction. We've been reverse engineering your enhancement process for months. Turns out that once you remove the dependency factors, the beneficial compounds are relatively straightforward to synthesize. The implications hit Marcus like a thunderbolt. You're talking about making the enhancements available to anyone who wants them. Voluntarily, with full informed consent, and without dependency or control, Alex confirmed. The benefits of bonding without the slavery. Through the communication system, more reports were arriving. Enhanced individuals across the galaxy were not only surviving the transition to synthetic compounds, but reporting that their abilities were actually improving without the limiting factors the Council had built into their original formulas. This is impossible, Thessarian said, but his voice had lost its certainty. This is human ingenuity, Marcus replied. We don't accept limitations, especially artificial ones imposed by others. On the medical deck below them, he could see that Kira was already responding to the synthetic compounds Alex's people had brought. Her color was returning and the desperate hunger in her eyes was fading. The bonding dependency was never necessary, Zara said, understanding dawning in her voice. We could have had the same benefits without the control. The control was the point, Lyra said quietly. The Council never wanted partners, they wanted servants. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communications again. Prime Director, you have 1 minute to surrender, after which my fleet will disable your vessels and board them by force. Thessarian's image flickered, and Marcus realized the Council ships were attempting to flee. But the human fleet was ready for that too. Energy nets deployed around each Council vessel, preventing them from engaging their faster-than-light drives. You cannot stop evolution, Thessarian declared as his ship was surrounded. Other species will develop similar techniques. The strong will always dominate the weak. Maybe, Admiral Chen replied. But they'll do it honestly, without lies and artificial dependencies. And they'll face the same consequences we're imposing on you. As the Council ships were disabled and boarded, Marcus found himself thinking about the broader implications of what had happened. Humanity had encountered a species that seemed to offer transcendent benefits, only to discover that those benefits came with a terrible cost. But instead of simply rejecting the offer, humans had found a way to gain the benefits while eliminating the cost. What happens now? He asked Alex. Now we rebuild, Alex replied. The Valanian people are free to develop naturally, without artificial controls. The enhancement technology becomes available to anyone who wants it, under proper medical supervision. And the hybrid offspring get to choose their own paths, instead of being forced into predetermined roles. Zara approached them, her luminous skin brighter now that the artificial hunger was fading. I owe you an apology, Captain. We truly believed we needed your help to survive. We didn't realize we were trying to trap you in the same system that was destroying us. Some of you didn't realize it, Marcus corrected, glancing at Lyra, who was helping coordinate the station's medical response. Others did, but chose to do the right thing when it mattered. Through the viewport, he watched as transport ships arrived to begin evacuating those who wanted to leave the station. Many of the Valanians were choosing to return to their home worlds, eager to share the truth with populations that were still learning about their liberation. But others were staying, working with Alex and his team to refine the enhancement process and make it available to volunteers from across the galaxy. The station was transforming from a site of exploitation into a center of cooperative research and development. Captain, Admiral Chen's voice came through his personal communicator. I have a proposition for you. I'm listening. How would you feel about heading up a new initiative? We're establishing a task force to investigate other species that might be operating similar control systems. The galaxy may have more secrets like this one. Marcus looked around at the diverse group of beings working together to clean up the mess left by centuries of deception. Humans, Valanians, and representatives from a dozen other species were collaborating on solutions that no single group could have achieved alone. "Where do I sign up?" he said. As the Defiant Hope prepared to depart Sanctuary Station for the first time as part of a formal fleet rather than a lone merchant vessel, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. He'd come here, expecting to provide simple assistance to a dying species. Instead, he'd become part of liberating multiple species from a system of control they hadn't even known existed. The enhancement technology was real, the benefits were genuine, and now they were available to anyone who chose them freely. But, perhaps more importantly, the galaxy had learned that offers of transcendence should always be examined carefully, and that true progress came through cooperation rather than control. As they jumped to hyperspace toward their next mission, Marcus smiled.